How did you, yo? This is John, and today we are talking about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a movie that came out back in 2008, starring Harrison Ford. And in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it deals with Indiana Jones, who once again is after a lost treasure, this time the Crystal Skull of Akator. And this time, rather than it being Nazis looking for world domination or cultists doing the same thing, he is dealing with Soviets who want to use the Crystal Skull's supernatural abilities as a weapon. So he has to find the skull, get it to Akator before the Soviets do. Otherwise, a nightmare is going to happen. Okay, so getting into first and foremost what I liked about the movie. Obviously, Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones is perfect casting, and Indiana Jones is one of the best characters ever put on screen, period, end of discussion. I've said this like 3 times before already. The difference with Indiana Jones, though, with this one is he's a lot older. Almost 20 years had passed between Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, both in real life and in the movie. Last Crusade takes place in 1938. This movie takes place in 1957. So a near 20-year gap in between these movies in both real life and in the films themselves. And even though Indiana Jones is a lot older, he's not too old. He still has a lot of his strength left in him. It's just he doesn't look young at all. He's graying. Okay, well, his hair is gray. However, he's still able to beat the snot out of people really well. When it comes to the story, I like a lot of the elements in the story, believe it or not, including how they were able to pay homage to 50s TV shows and 50s movies. Kind of like what they did with the original 3 Indiana Jones movies. They took place in the 30s, and they paid homage to a lot of movies, a lot of adventure films in the 30s, because they were extremely popular in the 30s. This one takes place in the 50s, and what was most popular in the 50s was sci-fi. So you have a lot of sci-fi elements thrown into it, including with the origins of the Crystal Skull. And honestly, I genuinely don't mind that because I understand what the heck they were doing. When it comes to some of the new characters, there are a few that I like, believe it or not, I don't mind Mutt Williams. Mutt, he's like a very young version of Indiana Jones if Indiana Jones grew up in the 50s. And they explain why. Mutt, he comes across as this guy who grew up kind of with a hard life, but yet he's able to be himself and be a strong person. That, I like that. With Harold Oxley, though, you hear all these great things about him, and when he shows up, he's not. He's kind of strange. They explain why. But even after all is said and done, and he's supposed to be back to his normal self, it's kind of underwhelming a little bit. And then you get to the villain, Irina Spalko. The only reason why you end up disliking her is because she wears a hammer and sickle. That's the only reason why. When it comes to her as a character, there really isn't anything to her. The bulk of the villains in the previous movies were Nazis, but they didn't require being a Nazi in order for them to be disliked characters, disliked villains. You would dislike them even if they were not Nazis. But with Spalko, there isn't anything to her. Let's get to what I dislike the most about the movie, which is, of course, the CGI effects. The CGI effects are disastrously bad. What's unfortunate is, unlike the original 3 movies, which were more reliant on traditional miniatures and models, there's CGI all over the place. There's only a handful of traditional miniature effects, and it shows, because the actual miniature effects that I know of look really good, but the CGI looks terrible. In case anyone's wondering, oh, it's been 15 years, you were watching in 4K, blah, blah, blah. I remember when this movie came out 15 years ago, and it looked bad even back then. Also, there's a few moments where I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the situation going on, and I don't think anybody would have survived at all. But all in all, I think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a good movie. It's as good as the first 3 Indiana Jones movies. Not even close. Is it better than I think Dial of Destiny will be? Probably. And, I just enjoy it. I'm going to give Kingdom of the Crystal Skull a 7. Well, that's all the time I have for today. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Please also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, please remember, the Podetsky Order.